Howdy folks, sorry for the delay in getting this out, but I hope after I explain all this you'll understand why. First of all, there was took a while to get in to see the orthopedic surgeon. They're kind of busy, so that took 5 weeks or so. And then I've been wrestling with how much to talk about and how much to not talk about, because I don't want a bunch of drama and worry and stuff from the folks that care about me. So, all right. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. Here's the way things went. I saw the plastic surgeon, and unlike the plastic surgeon in Puerto Rico, he came to the conclusion that the only way to really fix this problem with this bed sore is to remove the source of the problem, which is that my left hip is permanently dislocated. Way back early in my injury, my spasms were so bad they dislocated my left hip and destroyed the joint, and were dislocating my right hip and my knees until I finally got these idiots to cut the tendons in my legs to weaken the spasms. But by that time it was too late for my left hip, and they did what is called a girdle stone procedure, where they cut the ball off the femur and thereby relieve some of the pressure in the hip area. But that means that the femur, the thigh bone, just floats in there, and the result of that is the muscles contract and it pulls the femur up to where right now my left thigh is about the thigh bone is full length, but it's pulled up about 4 or 5 inches to where my left leg is 4 or 5 inches shorter than my right. And it's the fact that this bone is pulled up and out of position, and there's so little meat over the bone, and the skin has gotten fragile after 28 years of being paralyzed. At the end of August it'll be 28 years. So, you know, that area is just hyper prone to bed sores, and you know, this one's just not healing. The skin will not regenerate. There's a little bit of muscle tissue that is now covering the bone again. And on the plus side, I do not have a bone infection. I was kind of surprised about that, but I don't have a bone infection, so I don't have that problem. But back to the plastic surgeon. The one out in Puerto Rico was going to just, you know, lop off the top of the bone and do what's called a flap procedure to cover the bed sore and call it a done deal. But the problem with that is all that would have done is the muscles would have pulled the thigh bone back up to the position it's in now, and my left leg would be that much shorter, which just leads to, you know, now there's more. I've got the same exact problems, except I have added problems with I would have had added problems with being able to sit in the wheelchair or any other seat, you know, the car seat, for example, because now my left knee would be, you know, if I was sitting back in the wheelchair, my left knee would be too far back to get past the front of the seat. So the only solution, the only real solution to this is to take out the bone entirely down to below the femur, the pelvis, so that there is no pressure there. And this results in what the plastic surgeon had called floppy leg, where you have a section of your leg that doesn't have any bone in it. I mean, most people have seen pictures of somebody with a broken bone and how the leg just flops around. Well, this would be the way my leg would be behaving all the time. And the spasms that I have, I do still have spasms. They're not as strong because the major tendons were cut, but spasms would be pulling my leg in all kinds of different odd directions and everything. Well, that didn't sound too good. And, I didn't really know the details of why it would be bad. It just sounded like it would be a bad thing, and I expressed that to him, and he said the only other alternative is total amputation of the left leg. Well, that's pretty drastic, so I went to the neurosurgeon to get a second opinion on this, and he confirmed it as the best solution, and not only that, he confirmed that amputation was the best solution because of the problem with the spasms, which I talked about just a moment ago, and the added problem of, there's a possibility of me rolling over in my sleep or something and ending up with my leg twisted around severely, even to the point of being where it's backwards, and either from the spasms putting my leg in an odd position or me moving in my sleep to where my leg was in a really odd position, the femoral artery could get twisted or pinched off somehow and basically cut off the blood supply to my leg, and then my whole leg dies and has to be amputated anyway. But there's the added problem of dead tissue that has started to decay and is putting poisons into my blood system, which is running through my whole body, and that is a very, very bad thing. That's why people die from gangrene. So the next step was to go see the orthopedic surgeon, and this dude just doesn't get it. I'm sure he means his best, and if I recall correctly, I've dealt with him before, and he has delayed on stuff. This is the reason I've got the problem with my hip that I do now, because if I'm right, this was, 20 years ago, a little more than 20 years ago. But if I'm right, this is the same doctor. And back then, he didn't want to cut the tendons in my leg and was saying, no, that's not going to be a good thing, and yada yada. And which is why I ended up with the left joint being destroyed and needing Girdlestone procedure and all of that, which has led up to the problems I've got now. So I go to see him, and his best solution is basically the same thing that the plastic surgeon had said. Well, first of all, he said, well, why don't you just, deal with the bed sore, just, keep bandaging it like you do now, and so on and so forth. Problem is, an open wound like this is just an invitation for infection. I've already had infection a couple of times that I've had to be treated for, but bed sores are responsible for a pretty high percentage of the deaths in spinal cord injuries in anybody who is immobile. In spinal cord injuries, I believe the number is somewhere above 40% of the people with spinal cord injuries end up dying, not from natural causes, but because of complications from bed sores. There's another percent that die from other complications and so forth. But, bed sores are very, very hazardous. It's nothing to play with. So I basically told him that's not an option. I don't want to sit there and live with this thing and then, end up dying from it. And there's other complications as well that, spinal cord injury, you're dealing with the nervous system. It's an extremely complex deal. So I won't get into all that. But and then he said, well, the only, the next best thing is that floppy leg stuff. Cut the femur down and give me the floppy leg. Well, if he doesn't cut it down far enough, it just pulls up, and we've got the same damn problem that I've got now, plus the problems with the left thigh being so short that I can't sit in the wheelchair and have my knee past the front of the seat. And I explained that to him, and as well as the problems, if he cuts it down further, the problem with the floppy leg. And he was going, oh, I've never heard of anything like that. Well, bone doctors don't know jack shit about spinal cord injury. No disrespect to bone doctors, but that's why they aren't neurosurgeons. He's very, very against this idea of amputation. One of the things he says, well, you won't have balance. I don't have balance now. I'm paralyzed from the armpits down. I've got to keep myself upright using my arms. I can sit fine in the wheelchair because the back of the wheelchair is bowed and supports me. But if I lean forward, I start to fall over, and I can't hold myself up until I grab until I right myself with my arms. So that's a non-issue. That doesn't do it. His next thing was that my left leg, I would lose the support of it, and that's a valid issue because I lean on my left leg, and if I'm bending over, I'll use my leg on the footrest as a peg, as it were, to support myself. But on the other side of that coin, my left leg is I also have the spasms. And they will try to jump me out of the wheelchair or end up having my leg jump out and stick out in front of me and kick a table or get stuck between, the table leg and a chair or something, and spasms are pulling my leg around and everything. It's actually broken my leg once and my foot twice with that sort of thing. So it's a trade-off, Gee, I wonder if I can adjust to leaning on the wheelchair instead of my leg and using the wheelchair frame to push up. If I'm leaning over, I need to push myself back up because, again, I don't have trunk muscles. So, I wonder if I can use the wheelchair frame to do that instead of my leg. I think I can manage to make that adjustment. After all, if I could manage to make the adjustment from being able to run 11 miles a day in 66 minutes while wearing a 22-pound flak vest, I think I can manage to make the adjustment to not having a leg that I can't use to begin with, except for, like I say, this passive support system. So that's where that guy's at. He doesn't seem to understand the concept of quality of life. What I'm hoping, I don't know this is going to happen, but what I'm hoping is, one, that this will help with my scoliosis, because the way the femur, the thigh bone is right now, it's below the position. It's pulled way up and it's below where it should be in relation to the pelvis. So my pelvis is canted from this about 45 degrees to the right, which makes my spinal cord look like an S when you view it from the back. Well, without the left thigh bone in there pushing my pelvis up as I sit, I hope, I don't know this will happen, but I hope that, the spine will start to straighten out. I didn't have any problems with scoliosis before this dislocation and girdle stone operation. Another part of it is is the spasticity. Pain causes spasms. And part of the reason for the scoliosis is spasms in my left back, in my left lower back, which are a direct result from the pain. They also cause spasms in my legs. And the spasms are sympathetic in both legs. I mean, if one leg starts to spasm, the other leg will start to spasm as well. So you take away that pain, you really reduce the spasticity. I had to stop flying because I had to start taking first spasm medicines and then pain medicines as well, as this problem got worse and worse. So you take all that away, and I hope, again, I don't know, but I'm hoping that I can get off these medicines and start flying again. You know, I was halfway through my instrument training to get my instrument license when I had to stop flying. So get recertified. Well, not recertified. Yeah, recertified. Get recertified. Get my pilot's license renewed. I'm already a VFR pilot. Get my pilot's license renewed. Get back into the instrument training. Finish that up. Get my IFR license, and I'll be able to, you know, even with the VFR license again, I'll be able to fly around like I used to and go visit my friends, you know, that are a long ways away, without having to go to through all the garbage with you know, airport security and baggage check-in and all that crap. And the time offset, you got to go to the air. For example, if I'm flying out to visit my friend in Missouri, I can fly straight into his town of Springfield, which does not have an airport big enough for the airliners. At least not the last I know. I don't believe it does. So I can fly directly into his town. You go on an airliner, you got to go a couple of hours early. You got to do all the garbage with the check-in and get through security and all that crap. Then I'd have to fly into, I guess, Kansas City, and then rent a car and drive down, you know, and all that garbage. Whereas you go out to the airport, you know, you draw up your flight plan, go out to the airport, pre-flight your plane, take off, and go. And the time difference doesn't end up being all that much difference from taking a commercial flight versus a private, you know, flying yourself. Time difference doesn't end up being all that difference, because even though you're going much, much slower, you're not having to waste all that extra time at the airport, and you are going directly to where you want to go, because there's small airports all over the damn place. You know, the big airports where the airliners can land, you got to go to a major city. So anyway, I'm hoping I'll be able to get back into flying. That's one of the things I enjoyed more than just about anything else I've done in my life. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get back into flying. I'll at least be able to get, you know, even if I can't do that, I'll be able to start traveling again by car, which is what I used to do before I got my pilot's license. I would go visit people, just get in the car and go. Right now, if I spend too much time in the car, you know, my hip starts to hurt real bad because of the bone-on-bone grating and all that crap. Then you have quality of life is something that just seems lost on this orthopedic surgeon. He doesn't seem to understand that you know, the quality of life, that the potential that I have for a better quality of life is guaranteed to be better. I mean, my life will be better. But the potential is I'll be able to get back to where I was before I had to start slowing down. And that just seems lost on him. So anyway, I got to call my neurosurgeon and make an appointment. And I was going to do it early in the week, but my sleeping hours are all weird, and I've ended up sleeping during the hours the VA is open. So I haven't called him yet. I was going to call him earlier this week if I hadn't heard from him yet. The orthopedic surgeon said he was going to consult with him, but I haven't heard anything from anybody. So I'll give him a call, and with the spinal cord center out here, it's not as busy as out in Puerto Rico, and so far they've been able to get me in to see the doctor, within 7 working days. I've been real lucky so far. It's only the longest I've had to wait is 4 working days. So I'll give him a call a little bit later today. This is July 31st. I'll give him a call in a couple hours and set up an appointment to go see him and see if this orthopedic surgeon is bothered to consult with him. And if not, then get him to go and talk to the orthopedic surgeon and put his foot up this guy's ass and get him moving on this stuff, because he's the one. He and the plastic surgeons are the ones who have experience with this, with spinal cord injured patients. They're the ones that know. This orthopedic surgeon doesn't know. His area of expertise is not dealing with spinal cord injuries. Like I say, this is just going to be a better resolution to this problem all around. There are some negatives to it, but the positives far outweigh the negatives. I won't pretend that I'm not a little nervous about the idea of this, or a little apprehensive, I guess is a better term. But like I say, I've adjusted to far more radical changes in my life than losing a leg that I don't use anyway. All right, so I will holler at y'all later, and take it light.